Hello and welcome back to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube page. My name is Kyle Boone, and with me, as always, Mr. Adam Finklestein, 247 Sports Director of Scouting and the Do It All presence for 247 Sports' basketball content. Finkelstein, we're gonna rank
Boom.
we're gonna rank some big men today. How does that sound?
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So, we kind of narrowed this down to five names, and we'll talk about some kind of honorable mentions and some guys who maybe you're higher on than others, and maybe some guys who I am higher on than others.
Yep.
How do you want to do this? I think we should just rank them and then talk about each prospect. How do you want to attack this?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you have the three freshmen? I mean, because the guy that I'm higher on than you are is not a freshman. So I think we're going to save those. And I think conversely, your sleeper, so to speak, is not a freshman either, right? So we can save those two upperclassmen. Why don't we just start with the freshmen? So who is the best freshman big on your board?
Yeah. I think the obvious candidates here are Asa Newell from Georgia and Khaman Maluach from Duke. And I rank it in that order. Newell and then Maluach. I think Maluach is getting a ton of steam, and I have definitely noticed it. I'm sure you're probably Maluach over Newell right now, and I think that's probably consensus, but that's how I would rank the two like highly touted freshmen. How would you rank those two?
I think I would go Maluach first and then Newell, but let me hear the Newell pitch.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like it's just you're betting on a more polished prospect at this point. Like he's a live vertical athlete. I believe in his ability to eventually shoot it at a reasonable clip from 3-point range. Really physical on defense. Doesn't play afraid. Plays kind of even bigger on defense. A lob threat. Someone who is very efficient and has thrived on efficiency all season. His numbers are really impressive. He is fourth in the SEC in offensive rebounding rate, second in the SEC in player efficiency rating, synergy data, which is like, a lot of advanced metrics and kind of framing contextually how he's doing this season. Absolutely loves him. He's 84th percentile as a cutter, 86th percentile in offensive rebounds, 89th percentile in post-ups, 92nd percentile transition, 94th percentile finishing at the rim. So, I think just like the totality of Newell as a prospect, I feel like I can be pretty confident that he can be a well-rounded big man who can be a lob threat, who has some real qualities on defense to be able to defend in space a little bit. And then also, like, you have to feel confident that he's going to eventually be able to knock down shots and be kind of a stretch big. So that's the reason that's the case for me right now, Newell over Maluach. What say you?
All right, so here's what I buy with Newell. First of all, I buy the motor, and I think that he's done a great job this year. And Georgia, by extension, has done a great job this year addressing a couple different things. One is the physicality piece, because that's an area where we had some questions of coming out of high school. He's gotten notably stronger. He's playing with a consistently high motor. And you mentioned all the analytics that speak to his efficiency around the rim. I also think Georgia has done a nice job giving him a very confined role that he's able to be consistent in. One of the things I've spoken about in the last couple of weeks is the relative inconsistencies over his trajectory. Like great in the summer before his junior year with USA Basketball, has a disappointing junior season at Montverde, bounces back and has a great summer again with USA Basketball, and then a much more solid senior season. But there were some highs and lows in that overall trajectory, whereas at Georgia, it's just been very, very steady. Outside of that 6-point game at Texas A&M, he's just been rock solid every time out. Now, the thing that I like about his role is they are letting him shoot threes, but candidly, he's not as far along as a shooter as I expected. I think he's only making 29% of his catch and shoot threes right now. And there have been some bad misses, like some rhythm air balls that really give you some pause. But I like him as a finisher. I think he's made a lot of progress playing out of short rolls. I think that's an area that we didn't talk about yet. And I think defensively, there's some versatility as well, because he does move pretty well. He's not super long, but he's a good athlete. He can block some shots, and he's disruptive and plays with a motor on that end of the floor. So I like him. I guess my question is like, and I know we've got to end with a comp here, so I'm going back to you on that one. My question is more about like the upside. I think he's going to be a long-term pro, and he's going to be, good reviews about what kind of teammate he is and stuff like that. But like what he's even playing a pretty confined role this year at Georgia. So like, what's the upside? And I think defensive rebounding is still a little bit of a concern as well.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right. And he's up to 30.3% on catch and shoot threes. So slightly improved, 40% when he's not guarded. So yeah, I mean, like it's fine. It's good. Maybe slightly below what you would have expected, but he is, even in a confined role, I think he is carrying like a pretty big weight for this Georgia team.
Mm-hmm.
And like comp wise, I think that's an interesting one where, just in recent history, like Derik Lively kind of makes some sense to me. Kind of tall, very slender, lob threat, very bouncy. Not someone who's necessarily going to be like a great, offensive weapon and a threat beyond just like being someone who can finish everything around the basket. But, in that role, like that's a very important role. We've seen Lively carve out like some real importance for the Mavericks, including last season where he was fantastic in the playoffs and really came along down the stretch. So, yeah, like I don't think you're looking at like a superstar type prospect here, but like a future starting NBA center, I think is very much in his realm of outcomes. And that's what I would take, especially if, you're kind of late lottery hoping to get a big man who you can develop. Newell makes like a lot of sense there.
So I will add one more comp and again, these aren't like full replicas, but just, I forget what the, Adi, you can interject here. Not Adi. You can interject here with the terminology of what we're using, but like the
DNA strands.
DNA strands. All right. So we've got a strand of John Collins in terms of somebody who does a lot of the same things you said, but has positional versatility between the 4 and the 5. And Nada, it's only appropriate that you left me on that island. I apologize for that. But so yeah, I think I would add John Collins to that one as well.
Okay.
All right. You want my Maluach case now?
Yeah, because like a lot of the things that we talk about with Newell is like kind of applies to Maluach. Like he's I don't know, make your case, because Maluach is like super raw, the athleticism, the movement ability, like all I get the case for Maluach, and he's super young. Like you're hoping that you can mold this guy into becoming something, but like the advancement that Newell already has, at relatively the same age, like I think there's a strong case that Newell has a better prospect profile than Maluach. But yeah, let's hear your Maluach case.
All right, here's my case. It begins with 7'2" with a 7'6" wingspan.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pure center, and it's a role that we have seen translate with the highest hit rate in recent years. When you talk about the Derik Lively's, the Yves Missy's, the players like that. Although my comp is more of a Clint Capella one, like a super high vertical spacer. Thought we were going to get a lob right off the bat on cue there, but super high vertical spacer, just tremendous size, tremendous length, rim protector, rim runner, high motor player, pretty mobile for someone his size. I still think there's a lot to work on from like an angle perspective. But when you've got a guy who's just that massively huge, can move his feet and plays with the motor, runs the floor, I think there's a lot of value there. I think the hands, which were the biggest concern coming into the season, look like they've made some subtle improvements, but that's still an area that teams are going to want to dig into further. Timing is another one that isn't quite as big of a concern, but is something teams are going to have some questions on. So yeah, I just view 7'2", 7'6" wingspan, great intel about who he is, like character wise, work ethic wise, willingness to play his role as reasons why I think we could see him as the top big on some teams' board, especially with the success that this archetype has produced in the last couple of drafts.
Yeah, no, I get that. And like the prospect profile on him is pretty interesting. Like some of his numbers are pretty promising. As far as being like good in his role, he's been great with his role. Like a really good pick and roll man, Good finisher if he's like right at the rim. He can finish and go above the rim. Not really a good shooter yet. Defense is it's good sometimes. I think there's a lot of promise, and like as evaluators, you're kind of projecting like what he can be and what type of movement skills he can do in terms of defending in space, what type of big he's going to be at the NBA level. 10.6% turnover rate to just a 3.9% assist rate. That's not necessarily good. The pick and roll man he's actually 100th percentile according to Synergy. So that's really impressive. 99th percentile again, according to Synergy, on shots at the rim. He's very efficient as a scorer, but obviously his shot tree, as maybe you would say, his diet is basically finishing at the rim. 76.5% on twos. That's 5th best in all of the NCAA. He's only taken 11 threes this season, made 2 of them. So, yeah, there's a lot to, kind of project.
74% free throw shooter, though. Like, there's some touch there.
There's definitely some touch there. Yeah. I was watching some of his like finishes around the rim, and small. He can play small sometimes. I think that is definitely like an area where he can improve a little bit. Like when he has a head of steam and he's able to be at the rim, like he's going to go up and finish it. But his like if he gets pushed around and he like settles for like a floater or like a hook, it's over. Like he just does not have that in his bag yet, and that's okay. Like that's we're talking about someone 18 years old, super young. Like those are things that he can add to his game. I don't, you're kind of picking nits here, but again, like I think just the totality of his prospect profile. There's a lot to like. I get why there is so much hope in Maluach as potential top 5 prospect, but I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd have him top 5 either. I think I just have him ahead of Newell on long-term upside. But now let me ask you this. When we talk about archetypes and different types of big men, I feel like Danny Wolf and Derik Queen are kind of in a similar subcategory. Are you with me on that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think
Which one do you like better?
So I like Danny Wolf more. I've been very high on both Wolf and Derik Queen throughout the season. So it's like asking me to pick which child of mine is my favorite. Like
which child is your favorite?
Well, they're both. I love them equally, But I think Wolf's passing and his true guard ability is pretty far advanced beyond what Queen is. The difference is like Danny Wolf is much, much older. You're hoping like Queen can eventually become that, but you can see the highlights here. Like he has like a dream shake. He can pull out and make turnaround jumpers. His passing ability is just, it's just remarkable. Like for someone who's a 7-footer, he's essentially like initiating Michigan's offense. He's making, contested threes. He can go between the legs here. You can see he just attacks the basket and finishes with his offhand. Just like the ability for him to read the game and to see the game at a high level, I think is really impressive. Like his processing ability for a big man, I think is very advanced. And that's the thing we like about Queen, right? Like we like that his passing ability is awesome. He has some very good highlight passes, I would say, in his package, but also like the lowlights for Queen. The low light package for Queen is like nowhere close to Wolf. Like Wolf doesn't have the same like, what are you doing? What type of pass was that type passes in his game that Queen eventually like just has to cut out. Like some of the outlet passes he makes are just silly. He tries to fit
like
passes.
foolish, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Like not good. Not good. And like again, like you're talking about someone who's a freshman in college basketball versus someone who's very, very much been around the block in college and Danny Wolf. So yeah, what do you think about like the comparison between Queen and Danny Wolf here?
So I will start with, let's talk about Queen because his highlights are going right now. He's got a negative assist to turnover ratio right now.
Yep.
I think one of the advantages of having scouted Queen for multiple years, even with as good as he's been this year at Maryland, I think is that you have a better appreciation for his feel and passing level if you saw him in high school. I really believe he's going to be able to pass. The foolish outlet passes, which you just referenced, notwithstanding, I think this is someone who's going to be able to play out of short rolls, who's going to be able to play out of dribble handoffs. I mean, you just saw that left-handed pass off the dribble there while leading the break. Guys who are 6'10" don't do that.
Right.
He's got elite hands, and I mean like truly magnetic. He can put the ball on the floor. He's, I think the body type and the implications that has on the defensive end of the floor are like the biggest variable. And I think the other variable is the shooting. So defensively, it's okay. Are you a 5? Because if you're a 5, you don't provide the rim protection that we're looking for here. If you're a 4, are there just some times where people are going to hunt you because it's not a great matchup for you from a foot speed standpoint? And then offensively, I think the biggest variable is, can you shoot it? I mean, right now he's a 77% free throw shooter, and he's made 2 threes on the season. He's 2 for 22 from 3 on the season. So the shooting is not there just yet, but he's got such good hands and such natural touch. If the shooting ever comes on, and listen, I've said this since he was a freshman in high school, if the shooting ever comes on, it changes the upside, I think. So he's both of these guys are unique prospects, but I would summarize Queen that way. I think Queen, from a comp standpoint, I think Queen is more in that Alperen Sengun category than Wolf is. I see a little like Boris Diaw in Queen too, although I think that's one that could probably apply to both. Just because latter years, Boris Diaw, when he was a little thicker.
Yes.
But I'm a believer in Queen, and with Wolf, like I see a little Frank Kaminsky there. And if anybody brings up Jokic for either one of these guys, it's just stop talking.
Yeah, Jokic is just like his own. You can't compare it to someone.
It's like when people tried to compare Harold Miner to Michael Jordan. Like, it's not quite right, folks. It's
like literally every year, everyone's looking for the next Draymond Green. There's just like not going to be another Draymond Green, and that's okay. Like, he's an interesting, unique prospect. He's a one of one. There's not going to be another one like it. There's not going to be another Jokic. Just because you're big and can pass doesn't mean you're the next Jokic. Yeah. Queen's passing is like, I will say, hopefully I didn't short sell it. He's a good like quick passer, and his processing is good. I saw some lowlights on there, but like he is a very unique and like gifted passer for his size. Absolutely.
And for the record, I don't think you downplayed it at all. I think your take is very consistent with people who've watched him much more in college than they have prior. I mean, I first saw this kid when he was a freshman at St. Francis Academy in Baltimore. Had a 50-point game as a freshman. So this year at Maryland is only 20% of what I viewed of him. So it's just a different context.
And I think like that's going to be a strength of his game regardless. I think the big question is going to be what his defense looks like at the NBA level, because we really have not seen enough from him at Maryland. I don't think he's like a sieve, but I don't think he's like is it called a sieve?
Kyle Boone, everyone. He's a professional writer. I just talk about basketball. I have to look up what sieve means right now.
Nada can correct me if that's.
How do we spell that?
It's sieve. It's not sieve.
Okay,
sieve.
All right, yeah.
Now you interject. You interject out of it. Come on.
I'm not a writer. What are you talking about? Yeah. So, defensively, like, he just really is not asked to defend in space. And I think that's going to be a big question mark. I don't think he's probably going to be anything more than like a drop big at the NBA level, but
they hide him too. And
they hide him. Yes.
They hide him skillfully. There's a lot of there's a lot of pre-switching going on. They're very proactive in making sure he ends up on who they want him to end up on. And at the end of the day, that's good coaching, but it makes the evaluation a little bit trickier.
Yeah. Yep. So we'll see. By the way, did you see Khaman Maluach at Madison Square Garden, the video that Duke posted?
So, quick sidebar. I was supposed to go to that game with Norlander, and then I ended up getting called into the studio, so I didn't go to that game. And then it was a bloodbath, so it all worked out.
So you didn't see the video, or no?
About him in the hallway?
Yes.
I actually did. I did just like an hour ago. Yeah.
Caused you to
Stefan.
So good. If you have not seen the video, go to Duke's Twitter page. It's absolutely fantastic. One highlight is, he's like trying to identify, who is this person? Who is this person? It's like a list of celebrities and stars. He gets Beyonce right. He doesn't guess Justin Timberlake.
He was very excited about The Rock, Dwayne Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah. Doesn't know who Justin Timberlake is, but he knows The Rock's real name.
Yes, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. There's a Elton John there, and I can't remember what it was, but he said something like, I don't know, but he's blind and plays the piano. It's like, no, that's that's Elton John. Just a funny character and a funny behind the scenes look at Maluach as a person. I think a lot of people are very high on him as a person. High character, hard worker. So yeah, it does make you second guess your evaluation if he's not entirely sure who Elton John is. I'm just saying, just makes you maybe do some reconsideration on your prospect rankings. That's all.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked Maluach, music taste aside. Maybe that's why you're not high on him. We've talked Maluach, we've talked Newell, Derik Queen, Danny Wolf. I think we've each got one guy now that we are personally higher on than the perceived consensus.
Yep.
Why don't you go first?
Yeah. So let's rank those four first.
Ooh, I was trying to skip that.
I will go first because I know this is a tough challenge, and my previous board is not reflective of my current board. So I will go Newell, Wolf, Maluach, Queen, all of whom are going to be somewhere inside the top 20 for me. Newell's probably going to be 12.
So
somewhere on there.
This is going to reveal my basketball nerdum, or as Travis Branham likes to put it, my obsessive scouting nature.
Good.
And I would fully caveat, I don't know who I have higher yet, Danny Wolf or Derik Queen. I know I would go Maluach. I think I would go Asa too. And then I really want to do a deep dive on both Danny and Derik. I'm inclined to say Derik, but that could be just my cognitive bias of that's what I would have said in each of the last 3 years. And I do think Danny's size, it's 7 feet tall, is really relevant. And I think the uptick in his shooting in about the last month of the season, because his 3-point percentage has climbed by about 5 points here. I still really worry about the athleticism and the defensive implications there. And I worry about the turnover rate. I mean, he's averages over 3 turnovers per game. And some of them, when you watch them, are why'd you do that? If you're the savant, intelligence, it's I don't get what you saw there. So I know this is a cop-out, but I'm going to reserve judgment on that one. And truthfully, I think teams that are interested in this archetype are going to bring both of these guys in. And I think they're probably going to work out against each other more than once, unless one of their agents blocks it.
Yeah. I would pay to see that. That would be fantastic. Some numbers on Danny Wolf just before we move on here. 22.8% turnover rate, 23.5% assist rate. Leads the Big Ten in rebounding and in defensive box plus minus. Contextually, probably does not capture, who he's playing next to, and a lot of those minutes are playing next to Vlad Golden, also a 7-footer who's very good. 35% on catch and shoot threes this season. So yeah, can knock down open looks. Not a vertical athlete, but also not a total stiff either. The creation off the dribble, the handling, all of those reasons why I have him number 2 on those on that list here.
In quick side point, I just want to make very quickly, like, great year for NBA prospects in the Big Ten. Like, I know SEC is the best conference maybe in history, but from an NBA prospect standpoint, I'm like trying to figure out how to get to the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah. Yep. Very exciting. And Danny Wolf, maybe one of the best. He's definitely the most unique. So I really like his game a lot.
Do you like Danny Wolf?
He's fine. He's fine. He's basically been adopted as one of my children. Okay.
Give me the guy you're higher on than most.
Yeah. So we didn't include two prospects in this discussion, and that's because we basically couldn't decide, and the top four were a consensus. So JT Toppin is the guy for me. The guy who I have as consistently ranked as a top 20 prospect throughout the season. And again, it's possibly, I would acknowledge some bias here because I did see him at the NBA Draft Combine, thought he looked great. He was someone who I thought could be a first-round pick, ended up coming back to college, transferring to Texas Tech, and has been amazing this season for the Red Raiders and has really exploded in the last month in particular. And that Texas Tech team looks like Final Four good, and he looks like possibly the best player on that team. The two-way ability, can do a little bit of everything. I would also possibly nominate Alex Condon here as a potential, just keep an eye on him. Florida
he's
big.
a first-round mix for sure.
Yeah. And a very interesting one who's, popped on the radar earlier this season. It's like, maybe let's just keep an eye on him, and has been fantastic, obviously coming off an injury, but Florida's been amazing. Top 5 team, and Condon's been a huge part of that. Give me your nomination.
All right, so the player that I am potentially higher on than most others is Colin Murray Boyles at South Carolina. And I would go so far as to say he is firmly in the conversation with those players we broke down. Like, he's definitely in my list of top 5 bigs. He may be as high as, it's not impossible he gets to 2 or 3, because I think the overlap of physicality, length, and processing is really, really impressive. When you watch this guy make a touch pass to a floor spacing 3-point shooter off a short roll, if you don't get super excited about that, then you are just not a draft nerd. And I don't mean you personally, Kyle Boone, but I just mean anybody. I watched that highlight, I was like, holy cow, that's just awesome. Now
by the way, speaking of touch passes, I don't know if you saw this. Derik Queen, Maryland had an inbound baseline out of bounds play. They lobbed it up to Derik Queen, caught it in the air, touch pass directly back to the inbounder.
Yeah,
that type of stuff is I was like, whoa, this is awesome. So
we're just those super high processors. Here's the concern with CMB, as they like to call him. Undersized, and he's kind of like a 4'5", and he's only 6'7". Now he compensates with physicality, he compensates with length. I think those measurements at the combine are going to be really important. And he's an outstanding rebounder, and his defensive metrics are really, really good. Almost 3 stocks per game in about 30 minutes per night. So I like him. He also had a great showing at the NBA Academy in August. Remember, he had a ton of draft buzz coming out of the summer. Obviously, the season hasn't gone the way South Carolina had hoped. But candidly, if you put them in the ACC, I think their record would be much different. So Colin Murray Boyles is a big that I think is in play in the lottery and is still likely to go in the first round.
Yeah. I'm not going to continue to throw names out here, but one more name, Thomas Sorber from Georgetown.
Yeah.
He's out for the season. We just learned that news today, so that's a bummer. But freshman who has made a very strong impression among NBA circles, could be in the mix as a first rounder. And this class is surprisingly deep. If you're looking for big men in 2025, all of these guys could end up going, somewhere in the top 25 picks, which would be very, very interesting.
And it's also unique because, as we said at the beginning of the show, the archetype that is hit most consistently, at least early in their career, is these athletic, rim running, shot blocking, lob threat bigs, the Derek Lively's, the Yves Missies, and stuff like that. And there are different kinds of big men in this class, like Danny Wolf, Derik Queen, Colin Murray Boyles. Like those guys are different types of archetypes. So a lot of it's going to be situational.
Yep.
And it's going to be a fascinating year to see who hits, how contextual it is. Like, is it just about them being in the right situation? So I think this is a really interesting class of big men as well as a deep one.
It is. And once we get down to when we know what the draft order looks like, it's going to make it a lot more fun. Once we're actually considering potential fits, like, for example, what OKC wants to do if they want to invest in like a developmental big. Would they prefer to go with like a high flyer or like a more of a traditional like Derik Queen, not a vertical athlete, but someone who processes the game at a high level? Like some team fits I think are going to be really exciting. So
we should do that in a future episode.
We definitely will. We'll be teasing that out for sure. So I think that's going to do it for our big recap today. I'm sure we'll talk bigs in the coming weeks and months leading up to the draft as well. Thank you all for listening. Before you say
goodbye, can I just say this? If people like this show, they can go back and watch the other shows because they're all still as applicable today as they were when we recorded them. So we've got a mock draft that I know a lot of people watched. We did deep dives on Cooper Flagg, on Ice Bailey, on Dylan Harper, on VJ Edgecombe. And as I said, those are every bit as valid today as the day we recorded them. So you can check them out on the CBS Sports basketball page. Right?
That's right. Yes.
YouTube page.
Yes. And please leave comments. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. And we're open to making some changes, some tweaks. We're here for some recommendations. We'll continue to cover the NBA draft leading up to the summer. Right in this space, CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube page. Like, subscribe, and we will see you guys next week. Take care.